Thank you so much, Aravis and Rossi. They always make us think, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And entertain at the same time. It's always great. So we as a congregation, as you individually and our community and other congregations, I'm sure, it's been a hard time. We've been going through a lot. And we've talked periodically about how to build resilience in us. One of the ways is to be honest with each other, to be honest about what we're going through, learn from each other, and also grow as a congregation to be there for others. One of the things we want to talk about this morning, and I'm so grateful that Courtney and Elizabeth are going to help me with this, we're going to talk about mental illness and mental disorders and mental health. So those of you who've been with us for some time know Elizabeth Davis Russell is a clinical psychologist, and she's had broad experience dealing with mental illness and mental disorders as well as mental health. And Courtney Clark, a little newer to our congregation, but she has volunteered today to speak with us specifically about her experience with generalized anxiety disorder. So why don't we start with you, Courtney? Tell us a little bit about, have you had this disorder for a while, or what's your experience with it?
Sure. No is the long and short of it.
Okay.
I have not. This is definitely a new thing since COVID hit. My family does have a little bit of a history with mental illness, but I never felt any symptoms of it until COVID hit because, fun fact, before COVID, I started working at Clovis Community Hospital on Herndon. And then the funniest thing happened in 2020.
We didn't know about that, did we?
No, it's a crazy new thing. And then we got hit with a global pandemic. And suddenly the job that I had been working at, which was already hard work, but it was very fulfilling. I had decided that I did love my job, being a housekeeper and cleaning up rooms and making a difference to people's days who are sick or for whatever reason can't take care of themselves. It was hard work, but it was really fulfilling. And then COVID hit, and suddenly that job became hard work that I dreaded. And for a period of time, once like the trauma started setting in, I thought I was sick. I thought I maybe had COVID. I would just do a short walk to the bathroom, and that was enough to like get me winded. It was hard to breathe. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was sick. And after many tests and a very difficult period of trying to diagnose what was wrong, figured out, oh, that's not COVID. That is untreated anxiety gone completely rampant. And after that, I got a diagnosis from my therapist, who I've been seeing for a long time. And I got a medication prescribed by my doctor. And since then, it has been a long journey of self-discovery and figuring out what the triggers are and what the coping mechanisms need to be. And it's been a lot, but it's a lot better now, for sure.
Wow, Courtney, thank you so much. Your vulnerability is helpful, very helpful to us. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I try.
It takes courage to do that in public. It really does. Elizabeth, you've encountered a lot of these kinds and different things, but about generalized anxiety disorder, what can you tell us from your professional experience just to give us more insight into what this disorder really is?
Good morning. As you listened to Courtney, I think you heard some of the symptoms of generalized anxiety. She felt anxious. She thought she was sick. She probably had some physical symptoms that made her think she was sick. I think one thing we should remember is that as humans, we worry about our jobs, our family, whether we're going to be on time, whether we're going to meet the bills, etc. Those are a necessary part of life. But with anxiety, and especially generalized anxiety, this goes beyond that. What the individual experiences is an overwhelming sense of anxiety. In some individuals, there may be physical symptoms that make them believe that they are sick, as we heard in Courtney's case. The individual is irritable, perhaps most of the time, is easily shaken, feels like he or she cannot control things, and the anxiety then becomes incapacitating, so that attending to the daily activities of life makes it impossible. And that's when it's necessary to seek help, when the anxiety becomes, as I said, we all worry about things. You know, I worry about getting old, whether I'm going to outlive my kid 501k or whatever, not 501k, but whatever my retirement money is. But if that becomes such a worry that it overwhelms me, and I'm focused on everyday things, and I cannot do things that I usually do, I can't function effectively, then it's time for me to seek help. And because in some individuals there are physical symptoms, the first step is to see a doctor if you have a personal physician, and have him or her rule out any physical diseases. Second thing to look at is if the individual is on medication, to ascertain that the medication is not contributing to the symptoms that the person is experiencing. I'll stop there and then go on later.
That is really helpful. Yeah. Thanks, Elizabeth. Now, Courtney, when you think about what you are experiencing, what you have experienced, what are you hoping that a supportive church community can offer to help people like yourself specifically, but also others that might need some support?
A lot of the time, if you have not personally experienced like these kinds of disorders and like factors of brain chemistry that you can't control, it's hard for somebody outside of that sphere to understand how debilitating it is. Because, like I said, it was wild. I thought I was physically sick. I got winded trying to get out of bed. That sounds bonkers if you don't know what's going on. Like, it's like, oh, just don't worry about it. It's not that easy. And honestly, the best thing that a church environment could do is to be an understanding and accommodating sphere. Like, not pressuring to like be involved in things that you are not mentally able to handle, or being understanding if you're gone for a couple weeks because it's been a really rough time, and adding just one more thing to that pot would have made the whole thing boil over. It's that kind of stuff, and just generally being a very grounding place. Like I've experienced here, like I may miss for a couple weeks, but then I come back and I feel grounded again. And I remember, oh yeah, I have a church family that I can go back to, and I feel safe here, and everything's great and grand. And also, weird thing that like sometimes, like church groups that are super deep in the sauce and don't really listen to science or psychologists or anything are like, oh, that's not depression, that's the demons. No, please don't. Please do not invalidate that experience.
Right. Thanks, Courtney. really helpful. Elizabeth, anything to add from a clinical perspective, how we as congregants, and none of us is exempt. I'm not saying that some people deal with mental disorders and others don't. I think to some degree, everyone deals with something. So what can we do to become more resilient as individuals and as a congregation?
Well, I will first address individually and then collectively as a church. One of the things you heard Courtney say is as the stress piled on, in essence, it exacerbated the anxiety she was experiencing. So stress is a contributing factor to an increase in generalized anxiety. The good news is that generalized anxiety is treatable by psychotherapy, and the brand of psychotherapy involved or the discipline would be cognitive behavior therapy that enables the individual to reframe things differently, to see and think about things in a different frame. One, to know what the triggers are, what increases one's anxiety, and then how to cope with that anxiety. So you heard Courtney say developing coping mechanisms. So there's psychotherapy, there's also medication prescribed by physicians, psychotropic medication, to help with the anxiety. Those two in combination can bring about great relief. But there are some things that we can do as individuals. One, to help reduce the level of stress is to engage in some kind of meditation, relaxation therapy, not therapy, but techniques. So if you see someone going through an anxiety attack, one of the things we can do is to help calm that person, get them to begin taking deep breaths to help calm the anxiety. I think as a church, we need to be understanding and supportive of the individuals because, as I said, we all worry, and we don't know when that worry is going to go awry and turn into anxiety that's debilitating. Another thing we can do is to yoga. A lot of folks do yoga. There are a number of things in yoga that can help to reduce anxiety. The physical moves, the meditation, the concentration, etc. help with that. Guided imagery is also helpful. And exercise is also helpful. But as everyone cautions you, speak with your doctor before you engage in any regimen of exercise.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Both
But
of you.
let me also
sorry.
add, because I said it's treatable, anyone experiencing this, or if you want to help someone, NAMI, that is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, is a beginning source that you may start with. Not only can they refer you to therapists, but they also have support groups for different kinds of mental illnesses. So one may want to join a support group. And NAMI is an organization that this congregation has supported so many times, and there is a branch in Fresno.
Thank you. Thanks, Courtney. Thanks, Elizabeth. Both of them are on our Missions and Social Justice team, and this team has been working hard at some of these issues and will continue to bring them forward to us so that we also can be informed and a helpful support to people. Thank you so much. If you want to talk to them after service, feel free.